POW release here in Ukraine. So that's great news. I can tell you that I don't know someone who got release information yet, but I've been surprised in the past where I thought that no one in my orbit did. But it's always good when it happens, and I'm not afraid to get good news. People that were definitely close to me, um, still waiting. So just so you know, you can put them in your prayers for that, and it should be. Hold on, I'm getting Phil Air and I are going to move his till Saturday. So you heard that I was going to do um, broadcast later tonight with Phil, but he's traveling, so it's kind of set up. Oh, hold on, I'm getting sound suddenly out of this. I don't want sound. Actually, I'll tell you what. I know what I'll do to solve it. I'm going to move it over here. Okay, thank you for your patience. I'm just trying to get some announcements out. We have a lot of things that are going on here, as you know, and it is, if you don't mind, send information out to the listening spaces if you're on the Twitter thing. And I am still hearing sounds. I don't want to hear my own thing back. We are working on, there we go, mute. The mute does a lot of work. The addition of the Discord server is in progress. I'm picky. I don't know if you know this, but when it comes to digital stuff, I like to get things perfect. And can you tell the model of my headphones? JBL 510s, I think. I forget what they're called, but basically JBL, the JBL BT 510s, I think. But these are the Trizub kind. In other words, I went down, filling stickers, stuck them on, and got in business that way. And my Ukrainian friends actually are often, they look, Shushu, what is this guy doing with these additional, uh, weird things on his head? Let's see here. I'm also trying to hold on. I'm trying to get so many things done here. I haven't finished my very important article that I'm actually still working on, um, about the consequences. It'll be done tonight, by the way. I can tell you that because I'm just, it's me being very retentive on the facts. Hello, Patty. Hello, Arcadian. If I haven't said hi to everybody, but I'm also trying to get a thing in the player space here so I can see your comments because that is important to me. And the faster I can do that, the happier I'll be. Let's see here. I am working on this. Good to see Stacy. Good to see Arcadian, of course, my Greek brother. And let me get this announcement sent over to Phil. Big bright light in my face. Forgive me. I don't like it. I'm going to kill that thing. I'm going to make sure it does not do that and blinded me. We're also, don't forget tomorrow to join us. We will have our update with Sean Penner. It's good to do my little phone checks in the day with him. Bright light is gone. Thank you. We are back to the other. And I should be able to see your commentary in this space if you're commenting at some point. So, but I wasn't until now. What is happening crazy in the world today besides the world? Did you enjoy our conversation last night with Juliet? She is so popular that I felt like I was in the room. I'm like, I've done this work too. Who cares? Okay. I'm going to sit back and let her be the popular one. Actually, I'm perfectly okay with that. It's a lot easier, to be honest with you. You just kind of get into it, Get into it. Be okay. Be okay with who you is. As Frank Zappa said, "You are what you is. You is what you ain't. The cow don't make ham." You know how many of you guys know Frank Zappa lyrics? There's probably some that. Anyway, have you heard more on if Zelensky help Orange? Oh, will help. You actually adjusted that. Will help Orange Mussolini. How do you mean help? I don't know what you mean by this. If he will help, um, I, I, I don't know. I don't know if he will. It's not like he didn't offer. And actually, the thrust of my article about all of this is entirely that, um, you know, oh, wait. Oh, I have a new person on here we're going to have to add to the mix to talk to. Um, how do you say this guy's name that really messed over our veteran? Sheehy? Sheehy? I don't know how to say that name. I'm not good with all these names. I'm good with the farther away from Texas the name is, the better I am at saying it, apparently. That was my magic trick when I was on the radio. They would bring in names for me that I could, they were very long Indian names. In fact, I got to interview one of my heroes yesterday, musical heroes. I don't have many heroes, but I have a few. And Lakshmi Narayana Shankar. And usually there are some of these that you just got to know how to string these items together and pay attention to the small components. And then here in Ukraine, I don't know if you know this, but we have like words like namahayatsa. Namahayatsa means trying. I'm trying. Yeah, namahayatsa. And it's 15 letters long. I would joke with my Ukrainian friends. I'd say, well, good. So Fred will be here in a couple minutes. So that's perfect. So I would joke with my Ukrainian friends that I have I have a little bit of suggestion for efficiency. We use the word try or even trying. So that's 6 letters. You got 3, you got 6, we're done. But actually, when you get used to the Ukrainian language, there are these big words that seem big. They wind up being a lot easier if you just make the sound. Just get through it. Try it. Namahayatsa. There you go. All right. I want to also thank John Jackson for his Monday segment. I have updated both my website, chrissampson.com, and I'm working on how the Substack account works so that I can get some of the bits that are up there organized a little bit better, because I didn't expect to basically blow up so much content on this platform, but it is what it is. And in order to get around what has been written, what will be written, and what will come, I have to do it. There's a lot on here, and I've been really, really happy that you guys have been joining us. I'm going to keep broadcasting. I'm basically wiring my entire operation into this is it. This is the way to do it. We have a lot of folks I'm hoping to have Daniel Hodges on next week, Capitol Police Officer. Eventually, I hope that Sergeant Gannell will join us. Of course, the invites are open to a handful of those folks. I'm trying to not announce the actual list of people I'm chatting with in the background yet. That way, for some reason, timing doesn't work out or whatever else. I don't have the audience all, stoked for something that isn't happening as fast. But we're hoping to have Michael McFall on in the near future. So some of these people are already definitely recommended that they'd like to come. It's just a matter of schedule and timing. And then the next Tuesday, I will have Lenny Morova on, Crimean journalist, who's very special to me in the community here. She was in captivity, but also, she went back to Crimea to see her dad, and was captured by the Russians, and has returned and has been out doing advocacy on this topic ever since. And we have really been honored that she will join. And then my friend Aziza will also join next week. There's a few different folks, so just keep a check on this page. Do not hesitate to find out what's going on because I will announce it. I see Martin is here. I see Patty's here. If you're also on that other platform run by Apartheid Clyde, please take the boosted post of what's happening tonight. Get it out there. Get our friends in here. And let's build up this audience as big and huge as possible. And if you don't, I'll do Bernie Sanders impressions. It's huge. The 1% of the 1%. I'm literally not going to use his voice tonight. Unless you tip. If you tip, I'll do it. If you tip, maybe I won't. We'll see. Good morning, Martin. Hello, Lynette. And yes, sending love to Ukraine. Thank you. Actually, I would like to also announce that we've had a fairly good set of quiet skies here, but of course, Russia attacks elsewhere, so it's not like the war just ends if we don't have something happening here in Kyiv. And usually it means that guitars are on each side, by the way, always flanked, just so that Arcadian knows this never goes anywhere. Okay? Always available, always ready to kill, prepared, as is the clutch cert. So, and then I have another in here. There's another one there, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frame drums. So, in the near future, I'll have even more. I'm working on getting a few of my drums sent this way. But tonight, I want you to be ready for someone I really appreciate. He's been doing great activism out there for a while, and he'll join us here in a minute. And we're actually going to even give him some theme music, which means it's going to be difficult to get this on over at YouTube because they don't like this shit. But I don't care. We're going to try it anyway because, Fred's just awesome. And, I think this is good theme music for Fred. What do you think? I think Worker's Song is like a great theme for you. Hey, man. Especially because the Dropkick Murphys gave you a shout out, homie.
I know, right? How cool is that? I was there because, I worked with them in Washington. We did Unite for Veterans, which was a big thing we did on the National Mall. And I interviewed Ken Casey. And when they were coming to town, being the guy that I am, I emailed the team and said, hey, you're actually in my district. I'm running for Congress. Can I meet? And Ken was like so excited. And he had me backstage. And they said, hey, look, go sit in the balcony. Otherwise, it's standing room only. I was like, great. And we're sitting up there, and all of a sudden, Ken drops that on me. And I didn't film it. I wasn't expecting it. And I was just, dude, I was so lucky that there was a fan, because it literally is in my district. And one of my followers and fans had his phone out and caught it and DM'd it to me. And anyway, the rest is history. It got like totally viral now, like 250,000 views. So yeah.
Well, it's appropriate, man.
Not a bad way to do it,
They're really, and I like that there's a few bands, but especially Dropkick Murphys has like stolen my heart in being able to get out there and just exactly say what they stand for, make it night and day, make it clear, and we need that more than ever,
Yeah,
and that's really what I want to talk about tonight. So
yes,
first off, thank you. For those who don't know, I'm in Kyiv, and you are not.
No.
But you were actually trying to change the state I was born in. I was born in Buchanan County. St. Joseph, Missouri, and then my mom got smart and moved me to Texas. And but I've always felt that being from Missouri meant something, even if I didn't grow up there. My stepdad's from Kansas City, and that whole area of the country is a part that I think that the party has often ignored, meaning the Democrats have ignored. Yeah, exactly. Yes. I love that. And it's like. And I think there's a bias to play to the edges, play to the blue cities, etc. But, we have to do everything we can this year. So if you don't mind, tell people, I think you're running for office, yeah?
Yeah. I'm running for Congress in Missouri's 2nd Congressional District, which is just here outside of St. Louis, my hometown where I grew up. I grew up in Kirkwood, Missouri. It's a suburb of St. Louis. This is my home state. I came back. I left when I was 17 to go to West Point in the Army. I served 20 years in the Army, including 4 combat tours. I went to West Point, went to Harvard for grad school, ran a veterans advocacy firm, ran a COVID field hospital, ran the Lincoln Project. I came back 5 years ago for my beautiful fiance, and as I watched things unfold here, I watched things unfolding. I watched our incumbent, a woman named Ann Wagner, has been in office 13 years, has never held a town hall, for example.
How do you hold it? How do you not hold a town hall?
Never, not just recently, ever. She's just, everybody calls her absent Ann or photo op Ann, and that'd be fine. Look, whatever. but she hasn't brought any money home to district. I talked to elected officials. She doesn't answer their
Important.
calls. She hasn't talked to our labor friends. She hasn't talked to our anyone. And in the end, what we've got is a situation where we have someone has quadrupled her net worth to $26 million while serving in
Ooh.
Congress. And look, I have nothing against folks who are rich. Good on you. Congratulations. She was an executive at Hallmark before she went to be an ambassador to Luxembourg for George Bush. What I have a problem though is when you pull the ladder up behind you and the people you're supposed to be representing in Congress don't get the support they need.
That's right.
They don't get what they. And so that's the situation we're faced. I mean, just the easiest thing, the low hanging fruit, ACA subsidies. Okay, you know
Right.
of Obamacare. They just went elapsed in our district. A 6-year-old couple who is on ACA saw their health insurance increase 299%. That's a big number. And so I would like to see my member of Congress care about that. I would like to see my member of Congress understand that. And instead, what we've gotten is silence and ignoring it. And so I'm running because I believe in my heart that goes right back to the Dropkick Murphys being my friends. I believe that working class people in America have been ignored too long. I'm an old soldier. I grew up, my dad was a World War II vet. I grew
Third
up,
generation, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, God, multi-generation veteran. My
Multi-generational.
dad was World War II. Granddad was World War One.
Wow.
Great granddad by two was a Civil War sailor. We had a
Wow.
Minuteman from Mansfield. I mean, we've been serving in this country as long as before there was a country. And so I feel very strongly about service to the nation. I raised my right hand at the ripe old age of 17. And I feel like that's the thing. We need people who, something I'm talking about a lot, and this goes with what you're doing in Kyiv is
Yeah.
feel the burden of leadership,
That's right.
understand that the decisions we make could very well lead to people losing their lives, to the idea that you in any way, be it not extending the ACA subsidies means 18,000 people in my district are going to lose their health insurance, could very well lose their
Yeah.
lives from cancer, to a president saying, hey, let's go to war right now. I know the generals say we're not ready. Let's go now. And 6 soldiers get killed in a command post that didn't have overhead protection. After 4 years of the war in Ukraine,
I got
fighting
a little bit of
Iranian
news for
drones.
you. I got news for you. I have friends that know how to fight those drones.
It's a funny thing that, right? The exact drones. That's exactly, which is why I was looking forward to talking to you. You've been fighting Iranian drones, and that's what took out 6 of our soldiers already. I'm
Yeah.
troubled by that, and
Right.
I believe if we had leadership that spent less time fighting wokeness and more time fighting and preparing for war, we'd be
Amen.
ready. And so it's not that the Iranians are good or bad. Look, let's face it. No one's shedding a tear about the losses that our Iranian opponents are facing. I have no I absolutely am heartbroken with the idea of civilians losing their lives. I've always been passionate about that. But no one's crying about Khamenei. No one's crying about the Republican Guard forces. No one's crying about the guys who make those drones getting killed. But in the end, I am crying about my soldiers getting killed. I am crying about crying that we had F-15 shot down by an ally. You know, one of the biggest jobs the Secretary of Defense should have is coordinating with allies.
Correct.
Did you do?
Correct.
I question if
Well,
Mr. Hegseth did his job.
We had a downgrade from a guy who had 4 stars, a black man,
Right.
his superior, Lloyd Austin III,
Right.
to
Right.
anyway.
Yes.
So
yes, I am running for Congress. We're doing great. I mean, we're a lot of people question if we can flip a Missouri seat. I kind of chuckle because I've done the homework. I've been a political hack for a while. I didn't run this race to take second. I ran this race because my opponent's very vulnerable. There's time for change, and we're going to do it.
Well, I'll give you feedback on it in the sense of town halls. We'll go to town halls. So my former representative in District 29 in Texas, which is the oil district in the ship channel, was Reverend. We got to roll that tape back. Representative Gene Green.
It's live, man. You're screwed.
Yeah, exactly. Gene Green used to call back his constituents, even if you disagreed with him.
Yes.
And my father-in-law said, "I can't stand Gene," and Gene goes, "Well, I would call him if he'll take the call." And that's what I liked about Gene, was that he would do that. And this guy Roy Morales ran against him and sent out a flyer one time that says Gene doesn't know his district. Oh, hold on. You got to call me on that, homie. So I sent a letter in and said, give me a call. We're going to test that. And I said, what was the #1 employer of our district in the 1970s before 1981? You drew a blank. I said, Armco Steel. What happened after that? That was the oil industry. What happens when the oil industry has to ship? And he had no clue how anything worked in my district. He just wanted to be in office as a Republican. And yet my guy knew everyone in the district. And that's your ground plan, I'm sure it sounds like.
That's it.
Got
We're
it done in
running
district.
everywhere. Run everywhere is I had several philosophies when I started the campaign. They haven't changed. It's funny because I started getting this idea when they passed the big billionaire bill, and I got angry. I got angry because they're stripping healthcare, they're stripping SNAP benefits. I had kids who were young adults, mid-20s. My
Hmm.
son, as a matter of fact, I tell the story a lot in my campaign. My son had just applied for the ACA window because at the time he was a bartender in a very upscale restaurant,
Hmm.
and they didn't offer health insurance, and he qualified for Medicaid because of his pay. He wasn't a lazy 27-year-old male laying
Sure.
around playing video games. He was working his ass off. So I got mad. And as I was thinking about running over the summer, I went hiking in Olympic National Park. One of my favorite things on earth to do is I am a hiker. That's one of the reasons I love this state, by the way. It's so beautiful.
Awesome. Awesome.
But I
Yeah.
was hiking and I said, here's the things. If I run, number one, we're going to run everywhere. Everywhere in the
Hmm.
district, all parts of the district. One of the reasons Democrats have struggled, I believe, in the last decade too, is we gave
Correct.
up large swaths of the country to the Republicans, and we're not
Right.
competing there. We just say, we're not going to compete there. Look, I'm going to compete everywhere. There are Democrats there. I need them to vote. I need them to know I exist. And there's
Hmm.
independents who are frustrated with the way the world's going. So we're running in every corner of this district, rural, suburban, labor. I'm working hard for Islamic. I had iftar dinner last Friday night, and
Right.
then the other day I had a lovely dinner with some of our Jewish supporters. I'm running everywhere in this district for everyone. 750,000 people deserve representation. Two, we are
Yeah,
running up and
and
down the ticket.
Missouri is so smart it actually created a town called Independence. So I'm an independent,
Right,
and
right.
I come from a state that like stayed out of the Civil War in a certain way. So
Yes.
I've always loved that. That's where my roots are. Is that
Yeah.
it's a state that needs that. And one more
Stubborn
thing
as
is
a
that
mule.
yeah,
We're stubborn as a mule. We've always
stubborn
been,
as
yeah,
can
this
be.
is who we are, right?
So there are a few things about Missouri that I think that are worth talking about, and I'll bring up the fact that I learned this in Ohio. If you remember back in 2008, yeah, I think it was, when
Mhm.
Hillary Clinton had to go out and walk back came in under Bosnia under fire. About a month later, there was a scandal that was a fake scandal that a hospital in Ohio, Southern Ohio, said, "Well, we didn't turn a woman away, and you're telling the story on the campaign trail." Turns out the story was true.
Right.
It was true in that since the rural Ohioans were being disenfranchised by corporate hospitals, that if you had a bill and your family had a bill, and it didn't matter if you had a bill or not, actually, it was a family member, they would just
Mhm.
deny you health care. And you had rural reach that you had to get out of these places.
Yeah.
And I think that that's still something I think about when it comes to this part of America is that I come from the city of Houston where I was right next to the medical center. But in parts of America, like Missouri is a great example, these are realities for people. So the ACA is a big deal for a stopgap on that. What do you think?
100%. And that's the whole point. The point
Yeah.
is that one of the things I say a lot in the campaign trail is this, and let's think about what we're talking about.
Hmm.
Our health, not health insurance, healthcare, our health right now is dictated by shareholder value. Think about that.
Yeah.
Health insurance, it really is. The health
Yeah.
insurance companies decide what you'll get treatment for based on cost, okay,
Right.
first. If they can wait another month, that means the money you paid stays in the bank another month.
Hmm.
When you do that a million times, it's a lot of money. The goal is always to postpone care as long as they can. The goal is to
Hmm.
drag things out, not spend money. Look, I'm a perfect example. I was in the Army 22 years. I was an Army
Hmm.
Ranger. I was a pilot. I have the most jacked up back you can imagine. I have no discs in the lower. I mean, it's a mess.
Wow. Fuck. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know us veterans. Our veterans, I fake knees. I got a rebuilt left foot. I mean, I'm at.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
we knew my back was jacked. My back's been jacked since 1989,
Ugh.
right? And so it finally gave out. I was having shooting pains in my legs. I could no longer walk. I go to my doctor. I say, look, we know what we have. We know we have stenosis. We know we have no disc. Let's get that treatment. Let's
Hmm.
get an MRI, see what the status is right now. The health insurance company wouldn't approve an MRI until I did
Hmm.
physical therapy because
Hmm.
that's cheaper. I went to
Hmm.
physical therapy. We couldn't do physical therapy, okay,
Right. Right.
because
Right.
it was too painful. So the poor woman had to basically have me just sit on an electric pad and a heating pad for an hour, which the health we paid for. And finally, they gave in. The only reason that happened is the doctor knew I needed an MRI. The back surgeon knew I needed an MRI. Everybody knew I needed an MRI, but the health insurance company was like, "Nah, man, we want to save that money for at least another 6 weeks to a month." And
Wow.
that is the fact. So much of our health is dictated by shareholder value, and so that's a problem problem in a country like America. We should not have that. People should have some sort of a public option to get health insurance, health care. We know that states that have increased Medicaid have had their economies improved because healthy people work. Healthy people don't draw from the public dime. Healthy people don't clog. Healthy people don't clog. Healthy insured people don't clog emergency rooms with bills that can't be paid. Again and again, we know that and this is my frustration. We've forgotten how to invest in our people. We've forgotten that health insurance is an investment in the future of our country. Public education is an investment in the future of our country. Good security, flood control, you name it. Yes, it's a public dollar, but that public dollar should be invested to improve the lives of the public. And too often we fail. So we get this argument, well, I don't want to pay taxes. Great, then get off the roads. Then when it floods, don't call me when it floods. When your house burns down, don't you dare call me. My favorite one is the property insurance people who get mad about property insurance. Well, I don't want to pay property insurance. I already paid for this house. Great, don't call the police. What do you mean? That's what pays for it. When your house burns down, hey, look, man, you paid for it. It's on you now, So
exactly. And then there's other like cost of living things that are really skyrocketing on the average citizen. And Missourians are going to feel this really, really at the pinch because of the type of economy that is there.
We already are.
What are some of the reality checks happening under the first year of Donald Trump's return?
It's a great point. I really appreciate that question. I really do, Chris. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk about this. I know you're in Ukraine. You got things going on there too. But
I don't forget my people.
Missouri had the highest increase of energy cost in the country this year. Wow. The whole country, all 50 states, 37% increase in energy this year. That's a staggering number. You're talking people paying thousands of dollars. Missourians had the health insurance go up. Missourians are working. My district is somewhat well off. It's actually one of the well off districts, but still mostly working class. The working, what we call the working class breadbasket is food, transportation, energy, rent, and healthcare. And those items have all gone up. And now, thanks to an unplanned war in Iran, our gas is going up. So average Missourians are facing the pinch more than everybody else. And I hear this as I go out. And the most interesting to me is no matter where I go in the district, and the great thing with being a vet who looks like this is I get to go places maybe a Democrat might not. I talk to people, Republicans too. And I had a fascinating conversation with a woman from my hometown who's Republican just the other day as I was getting my haircut of all things. And they all say two things. One, Ann sucks. My opponent sucks. Two, they're worried about their kids' futures. I can't tell you, Chris, how often I hear, I am worried about my kids' future. My kids can't afford to live in our hometown. My hometown of Kirkwood, which is a beautiful little Mayberry suburb, which I grew up. I used to ride my bike around. It's the safest place on earth. A lovely little town. I've had multiple people say, my kids cannot live in Kirkwood, right? They can't afford it. And so I ask constantly, what are we handing to our next generation if they can't afford a home anymore? If a first-time home buyer is 40 years old, if rent is beyond their means, I mean, what are we doing? We have the highest percentage of 18 to 24-year-old men living at home in the history of America. That's not because it's not failure to launch. It's not because of avocado toast. It's because the cost of living has become too high for our next generation to live in our country.
That's right.
That should terrify every American. And so we need to send people to Washington who are going to say, enough is enough. We're going to do hard things. And look, hard things mean you might get fired. Hard things mean you may piss off a corporate PAC or a lobbyist. Hard things mean you may get kicked out in 2 years. I'm 60 years old. I'm a retired Army lieutenant colonel. I've got TRICARE. I've got a very successful fiance. I've got my retirement pay. I'm not going to stay in Congress 5.5 years so I get my retirement. I'm going to Congress because I want to represent my community and make things better. And I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm not going to be a backbencher. It's just not who I am. And we're going to do hard things. And that means listening to people's needs and doing things for them. And I just don't think that's happening right now, man.
Well, I see 104 people already here now that want to hear this information. So we know, and this is what I love about this platform. We know people are dying for good information. Dying for
I got great followers. I know I see my followers are joining us too. It's good to see you.
And we're going to keep doing this. And it brings me to something that where I know you a little bit better from, which is that your advocacy with Lincoln Project was really important in trying to kind of revitalize a community or a part of our electorate, I should say, that was, sabotaged by ALEC, ALEC, at certain levels. And I lost your camera there, but it'll work out. I
Sorry,
see
I was
your.
posting. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. No, no problem. You can tell. We can hear you. So,
I was posting.
anyway,
I was
see,
posting that
no,
threads.
no, do whatever you got to do.
Join us. Join us. More people join
Yes,
us.
of course, and also friends, boost it out, boost it out.
Yeah.
So, in Texas,
Sorry.
the representatives at the state level were ignored in favor of whoever was running for the big office. And
Yep.
so a lot of the party ignored it until all of a sudden the state house was taken over. And in Texas, we have a every 2 years, few weeks session where nothing happens. And it's
Yeah.
designed to work as molasses. But the ground game to take it back is vital. And that's essentially what you guys did. For
Yep.
those who may have forgotten, remind us the reason why that project was so important and how projects like that are still so needed right now, especially with the midterms coming.
I love it. Thanks for the opportunity. So the Lincoln Project was such a great example of how I work, right? Which is I had a moment. I had closed my firm that I'd run for 10 years as a veterans advocate from pandemic got me. I knew Steve Schmidt from my time in Iraq, actually, when he worked for Vice President Cheney. We'd actually met when I was in the Army, and we'd worked together for years. So when I closed Scout Comms, Steve said, "Hey, look, come work for us. One of our target audience is veterans."
Mm-hmm.
And what we were saying is, look, we need to reach out to veterans and military family members and say, look, Donald Trump should not be commander in chief. And if you
Mm-hmm.
voted for him in 2016, it was Republicans specifically. If you voted for him in 2016, my job as a court to create a permission structure that they wouldn't vote for him a second time. Right. That was my
Right.
mission. And so I spent my time thinking of ways to reach out to my fellow service members and veterans and military families and say, look, we deserve better. This is
Mm-hmm.
your opportunity to vote for something. Look, maybe Biden's perfect, maybe Biden's not, but at least Joe Biden was a blue star dad. He had actually sent a son to war. He knew what it was like to wait till 9 p.m. Hopefully, the casualty assistant officer won't knock on your door.
Mm-hmm.
He at least knew our lives in that way, and I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that. So that's our job. So that was the job of the Lincoln Project. Our job was to reach out to people. It was funny because we got our mission from Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon actually gave a speech and said, "Look, true story." He gave
It's
a speech. He said,
interesting.
"Look,
Yeah.
yeah," he said, "these Lincoln Project guys, you shouldn't dismiss them because if they can peel off 3 to 4% of Republicans who voted for us
That's
last
correct.
time, it's
That's
over."
correct.
And so we used to call it the Bannon line. We had posters made that said the Bannon line, 4%. And we found
Yeah.
out after that election that about 6% of military and veteran community members who'd voted for Trump the first time didn't the second time. So that was my job. And I worked with wonderful people like Vets for Responsible Leadership and Vote Vets and others to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very important that and that first iteration of the Lincoln Project, and that's a little bit smaller now, but that we did things. We did Facebook Lives. We
Right.
paid for canvassers. I actually worked with Midas Touch during the Georgia runoff, for example, to hire
Mm-hmm.
paid canvassers. And I learned a lot of lessons from that campaign that are teaching me how I'm running my current one. I have created a permission structure here in Missouri where people who voted
Oh.
traditionally Republican, the same people who voted traditionally for Ann just because it's automatic, same people who voted for Republican because that's their family lineage, to say, hey, look, this is one time, go in that booth. I'm not going to tell anybody. You just vote for Fred Wellman this one time. Don't notice the D. And if I do a good job, you can rehire me. If I suck at the job, you can fire me in 2 years.
Correct.
But we all agree we need change, right? And so
That's right.
that's been very informative. So what the Lincoln Project did, especially that first time, 2020, was very effective, I think. I think it was very revolutionary for the time to be so massive. We had podcasts, we had town halls, we had
That's right.
canvassers, we had billboards, we had what I was doing. I did ads with Sully Sullenberger. I did ads with Mark Hamill. I did ads with the Venmans, trying to reach people, say, look, you deserve better.
Right.
And I think in so many ways it informs what I'm doing today. Telling my fellow Missourians, look, I know we're a Republican state, have been for a decade, 2 decades. How's that working for us? Why are we
Right.
49th in teacher pay? Why are we 39th in maternal health? Okay. Maternal mortality. Why, when we started off 2 decades ago in the top 10 and 15, now in the bottom 10 and 15 in every category? Is this working for you? So maybe it's time to
Let me
give
add
a
one.
dude,
Yeah, let me add one that's very important from where I'm sitting. So everyone likes to throw this word corruption at Ukraine,
yeah. Oh, there you
and
go.
I'm a numbers analyst asshole, so I pull out the abacus and I say, okay, where are we at?
If
And
people don't know what
I did,
abacus is.
yeah, I did 25-year trend on Ukraine. First of all, I just want to understand what it meant because it's an abstract term, and my understanding of that related to other parts of the world, where like contracts in Iraq wound up being like, anyway, that's a whole different story.
Yes, sir.
Um, and I started tracking, and I saw, wait, Ukraine keeps going up, and there's one dent during Yanukovych, and then it keeps going up. Well, what about a comparative? Let's look at everyone else, and the United States is going down.
Mm-hmm.
So these numbers about number one, yeah, no, there's some that are really, really bad. And one of the biggest ones is corruption.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
goes all the way to the top. And it
Yep.
comes back to the job you're looking for, which is Congress has abdicated its job entirely
There you go.
to a dictator.
Yeah,
Go.
that's a great segue, and I appreciate it. And it's absolutely true. And it's something I say a lot. I swore an oath to the Constitution. Like I said, the first time I was at 17 years old. Right, I was just a kid, and I did it my whole life. And Congress swears an oath to the Constitution. And for people who say they love the Constitution, they sure are ignoring it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They've just abdicated so much of their duty from just this week with the authorization of use of military force. And look, an
Mm-hmm.
AUMF means when Pentagon says they need $50 billion, we can give it to
Right.
them because there's an AUMF. Right now, it's like, well, what do you need $50 billion for? For a war? What war? No war. Make up your damn mind. And so
Right.
Congress, they've over the years given up more and more of their executive power. Now they've completely abdicated. It's funny. I'm a big Harry Truman fan. I'm sure you know Harry because he's from the same town.
Sure. That's
He's
right.
from Independence, right? And Truman, used to say, Truman was passionate about obviously corruption. He ran the wartime commission on, the Truman Committee and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I kind of worship Truman in that way, in the sense of he understood that we have to have oversight by Congress. That and Truman, when he ran in '49, used to say he had the Republican do nothing Congress. And I call
Right.
it the Republican doormat Congress, because
Oh,
what we've got a Congress that has given up so much of their power. They're nothing more than a doormat in front of the door that
right.
Trump and others and billionaires just walk across and wipe their feet on. And they just say, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" There's no input whatsoever. They've allowed him to do whatever he wants. Just yesterday, they voted against AMF. Was it a perfect bill? No, but let's talk about it. We must have our leaders explain to the American people why they're sending our sons and daughters into war. It's that
Mm-hmm.
simple. They have to look. We can agree that Iran's bad. I don't have a problem with that. And if it's a justified war, great, do it. I went to Iraq. I went to Desert Storm. Both President Bushes made their case. I'm just saying, make your case to the American public to explain why I have to bury my sons and daughters. Why
And one
I
of
have
the
to
biggest
spend my
things that was,
treasure. That's all I'm
one of the
saying.
biggest comparatives that just came out is that at least Bush went through the effort of sending Colin
He
Powell to
did.
hold up a vial, and
He
Trump
did.
just isn't even bothering with that.
Right. And the truth keeps changing. So going back to everything else in this, the way they do bills now, they don't pass bills, they pass spending. The only thing they do is pass a spending bill. They try to jam everything they can into a spending bill because it's the easy ways to pass things. And so that's why DHS is closed right now, because it's the only way Democrats could do anything and Republicans do anything. You can't just say, "Hey, we're against this organization, let's pass a bill." No, they can't have hearings to talk about things. Epstein files, another great example. Are they investigating the people that are actually in the files? No, they're dragging the Clintons in to embarrass them. There's pictures of Howard Lutnick with
Yeah,
Epstein
exactly.
on the island. Okay, I would like to know why the Treasury Secretary was on the island with the fucking pedophile. I'm sorry. We should have answers. He should be called before
Mm,
Congress. He is an appointed government official. I want to know his associate with the pedophile. And I'm angry that my opponent, Ann Wagner, who made her bone on sex trafficking, ending sex
right.
trafficking, has no courage to say, "Hey, if your name's in this file multiple times, and implication is that you were part of a pedophile, or whatever it was, we want to call it, sex trafficking, whatever you want to call it, rape, then you should come before
Pretty
Congress
much.
and
Yeah.
explain that." And again we see this cowardice because they're afraid. They're afraid of their own followers. They're afraid of Trump.
Entirely.
They're afraid of not getting reelected. They're afraid of
They're afraid
super
of their
PACs.
followers that they created. They created the followers by throwing red meat, and then they have to answer to them, and they're terrified of them.
There.
You can see this at John Cornyn suddenly had to go Nick Fuentes on us the other day with America First.
Yeah.
The only way he can get ahead. It's
Yeah.
absolutely lunacy. Let me bring you to
So
another
it's
one
just,
that's important real quick about because of this war. And
please.
I did this research because of people arguing about the PDA and the USAI supplying Ukraine. So I created a site along with NatSec Media, my main news site. I created UAMission.com, and all of this is just data. And then
Yeah.
so that when someone says, "What district is that in?" Yeah, hold on a minute. They voted. Oh, they voted yes.
Yeah.
Or they voted no. Interesting. They have a tank factory there. Lima, Ohio. Ever heard of it? Yeah.
Hmm.
Jim Jordan's that guy. Voted no. So the other day, about 48 hours ago, Donald Trump said, "Well, Joe Biden depleted our arsenal, and we did, but it's better than ever. It's never been better, but he deleted it, and we had to do so." So the defense industrial belt is an example that I don't think Americans really think of. They hear this term military industrial complex,
Yeah.
which is jargon. But the defense industrial sector is really grassroots America,
It
you
is.
know, and
It is.
they voted against Americans in this.
Yep. Yep.
That's why we don't have enough of certain things.
I think so. And we've allowed things to get out of control, consolidations. We've allowed things to get out of control, focus. And it does circle back to what we just said. How on earth have we watched what's unfolded in Ukraine for 4 years, and we haven't developed effective defenses for command posts in a port to stop a Shahed drone? How is that possible? How did we decide? How did we watch the Iranian drones pummel our friends in Ukraine, watch that unfold, and then we placed service members in an overhead unprotected command post as we launched a war with the maker of the drone? And so I have
Yeah.
a problem with that.
I have
And
an
so
abacus.
you're
An
right.
abacus says here because because of chasing transgenders
Right. Right. And
and
not working.
making
And so,
macho military again.
right. And we didn't
This is,
increase
by the way,
production
this
of
is the
Patriots.
abacus, everyone.
I love it.
Listening.
Very good. People don't even know what an abacus. How many people? Okay, raise your hand in the chat if you know what an abacus is. Okay, raise your hand. Check it out.
But that was the priority for the first year, was we're going to chase out the wokeness, as you said earlier, to chase out
Right.
the transgender service
DEI.
members.
DEI.
DEI hire.
I mean,
Exactly.
as we prepare for this war, Chris, the week before this war, and it's a war, let's not play games here.
It's a
As we
war.
prepare for this war, Pete Hegseth did three main things. He worked out the boys. He got all sweaty, he fake lifted weights. He attacked the Boy Scouts for several days. He attacked Anthropic AI, and then he attacked the Ivy League schools. Was he coordinated Kuwait? I would love to have instead been in Kuwait, coordinating with our allies on the Gulf, Persian Gulf, to say, hey, it's going to be a war here soon. Don't shoot down our F-15s. Because we now know a Kuwaiti F-18 was shot down 3 F-15s in one go.
Yeah.
Okay? Aircraft has never been shot down in the history of America. And so, while instead of worrying about DEI in the Boy Scouts, maybe Hegseth and the leadership should have been worried about not having enough Patriots, not having a defense against Shahed drones, and not having coordination with our allies so they don't shoot our asses down anymore. And so, you're right. The defense industrial base is in trouble. They're trying to pump it up now, but the way to do it is you invest, you make your case, you go to Congress. Instead, it's this free-for-all cluster of with no reasoning and no actual oversight. And finally, going back to your question earlier, where's Congress? They have a duty to conduct oversight. They have a duty to subpoena and ask hard questions, and to see the Secretary of Defense and the generals themselves now, because so many have been replaced by sycophants for Hegseth, just dismiss Congress as a gnat, as a political thing. It's not. It's their job. And I go back to Harry Truman. Harry Truman went against his own party to form the wartime commission on the Truman Committee.
Right.
And he did it very delicately. And George Marshall later said that Truman's work in the Senate was as instrumental for us winning World War II as the soldiers in the front line. And I don't believe anyone in Congress seems to understand that. They think their job in wartime is to go, fuck yeah, kill more people. Yeah, share hype videos, lifted weights to the boys and chest bumping, when their job is to provide oversight so that when our troops go to war, they can be assured they have the right equipment, the right funding, the right training, and the right coordination with our allies. And no one in Congress is doing that. Not a single one of them.
Counterintelligence is a big deal right now, because they also, Kash Patel removed a very important unit, the CI-12. And so what would you do in Congress? I mean, hearings are really the main way to do it, but between now and November, what are the type of things that you would press for people to understand about how Kash Patel weaponizing the DOJ after enemies and not prioritizing safety lands in America?
I mean, I've been very fortunate. I have great contacts within the FBI and the Pentagon who keep me informed of things, and the VA. I get messages daily from folks who are in the inside keeping us informed. The fact is, they've politicized the entire United States government in ways that we cannot imagine. And that is hurting our national security. It's hurting everybody.
Right.
There's no question. Look, I'm a national security guy. I served in the Army 22 years. Of course I care about national security. I was a hawk. I'm still a hawk in a lot of ways. But I also am a veteran who buried soldiers. My first soldiers got killed killed. We're 35 years ago in Operation Desert Storm. Hal Reichel and Mike Daniels got killed on a mission. I've lived with that for 35 years. So I know better than anyone I know the price of war and the price of having the wrong equipment, the price of sending men into combat untrained and unprepared. And so, and the price of not being ready. And that's what we've got with Kash Patel and the DOJ, firing people because of their political affiliation. They're firing them for a past thing. They're not prioritizing national security. So when I get to Congress, we're going to investigate all this. It is almost all more than likely we're going to flip the House.
Mike Johnson says flat out that the presidency's over if they lose the House, if they lose the Congress.
The authoritarian presidency is over.
And, well, that's what he meant. He meant that Donald Trump presidency is done.
That may happen. I'm not promising it. Maybe I'm obviously I'm an anti. I'm not a big Trump fan. Obviously, I ran the Lincoln Project for God's sake. Having said that, I'm more worried about. It's become a bit of a game. Well, let's impeach Trump. That'll solve everything. No, it won't. It won't, because this iteration of Trump, as Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Pete Hegseth, Doug Collins dismantling the VA. They've got Vought. They got Stephen Miller. They got all these people doing their own evil. The dangerous thing about this iteration of Trump is last time he wasn't ready. Let's be honest. He hired some adults because of that. That's how we got Mattis. That's how we got others, right? But this time they were ready. Russell Vought came in with his Christian nationalist goals in the government. Elon Musk and Doge. These people were prepared, and they're all doing their own damn thing, dismantling our government. So it's well beyond Trump at this point. So it's really easy to say, oh, let's get rid of Trump. That solves it. I'm sorry, folks. I'm a pragmatic man. I'm a moderate in the sense that I don't promise stars and moons. I know the problem isn't just Donald Trump. The problem is the people like Kash Patel, the people like Pam Bondi, who are just as evil, if not more so. Pete Hegseth is a white nationalist. He's a white Christian nationalist. He's been infusing the United States military with a Christian nationalist agenda that has become openly. They're encouraging service members to proselytize in uniform. That's outrageous. So we need to investigate all that. Subpoenas, dragging before the House, dragging before committees. And then the other part of it, which I don't think enough people in power use, which is the nice thing about me having 1 million followers on social media, whatever it is today, I think it's 1 million followers on social media, is, you know what? I could drag a camera crew over to the Department of Justice and knock on the door and say, what are you doing? You know, it's like shining light. We don't use that power enough. We don't use the power of shining light on the cockroaches. And we all know when you shine the light on the cockroaches, they scatter. And so it's not enough to go before a committee, get your 2 minutes, your 5-minute little break, and get your clip. No, you need to do more things. You need to drag, hey, guys, I'm going to go visit. I'll give you one example here in my district. Right now, there's an abandoned landfill in Franklin County, lovely area. It's abandoned. It's leaking. It's clearly leaching illegal chemicals into a creek. That creek goes to the Merrimack River. The Merrimack River goes to, there's a reason I have a river on my logo. My logo, because there's 5 rivers in my district: Mississippi, Missouri, Merrimack, Gasconade, Burbus. So when leachates go into the Merrimack, they go into the Mississippi. That's a federal issue, folks. And right now, we can't get help from the state. The county doesn't have money, and the EPA says it's not my problem. It's going to be their problem. When I get to Congress, it's going to be their problem. If they don't want to come before a committee, no problem. I will knock on your door. And I'm going to sit down with the administrator and say, so what are you doing for the people in my district who have chemicals leaching into their groundwater? Because that's your damn job. And it's not fighting wokeness. It's not fighting a fake battle against climate change. No, your job is to make sure my constituents aren't drinking chemicals in their water. And so I plan to go to Congress again, not be a backbencher. Use the tools I've been blessed with, the followers that I've been blessed with, and say, hey guys, let's go cause some trouble. Let's get some good trouble going here. And I don't think there's enough people who understand the power.
And I think I think that let me say this. I think that the effort you showed in it, and also getting 1 million followers in that, brings me to a thing that's in my next question as it's formulating is, I've told my listeners for a while, you're the problem, folks. And I don't mean that to push your buttons. It's that you're waiting for a hero figure to come along and make everything magic go away. You're waiting for Rachel Maddow to write the perfect
Nobody's going to save us. Right.
So how do we galvanize the citizen, the average person to become a citizen again in the sense of responsibility? And let me use, again, the power of my Ukrainian presence for all my friends.
You're a perfect example.
Here, citizenry means something. So Zelensky made one change to affect 2 corruption bureaus, and within 7 days that shit was rolled back, because here being a citizen means something. Here, mobilization is wider than simply the guys at the front. Everyone has something in the game. If they start acting like they don't, there's tension. So
Mhm.
we don't have that in America. We have an apathy where we go home and we watch what we want. We silo in our place and
Yeah.
we doom scroll a little bit. But how would you bring more of the citizens to be active in the community, active in this effort so that they take back the government with you?
Yeah. It's funny. I appreciate that. I really enjoy talking to you, Chris. It's a
Anytime,
great.
bro. I got
One of
time
the
for
one
you,
of the
bro.
things I've been saying a lot, and I love that example of Ukraine. It's such, and everything I know about that country is so dead on exactly what you just said. They understand the power of their voices and they're united. And so one of the things I've been saying in the campaign. So I helped organize some of these No Kings Days before we called it that. We just organized some
Right, right.
rallies. I actually organized Unite for Veterans. What I
Yeah,
mentioned with Ken Casey. If you weren't here at the beginning, that's how I met the Dropkick Murphys. They were
yeah.
kind enough to perform for us, so I helped organize that. That wasn't actually a protest. It was a demonstration in support of our VA, support of our veterans working for the government. So I was organizing that, and one day, right as I was getting ready to launch the campaign, we had that No Kings Day here. There was 7,000 people or more on the side of one of our busiest roads through the middle of my district in a raging thunderstorm, Chris. A raging. I'm talking lightning freaking bolts. And I see senior citizens. I see people who have never protested in their lives on the street protesting. And if we can gather that energy, if I could
Right.
take the energy to put 7,000 people out in a thunderstorm and get
Hmm.
them to knock doors, get them to volunteer for my campaign, get them to talk to their neighbors, and then, by God, get out and vote. If we take that energy of the electorate, and well, I should say of the population, and
Hmm.
turn that into the electorate, we will win. And there's some great signs that's happening. If you saw the
Yeah,
primaries that occurred Tuesday night,
that's right.
record Democratic, 2.3 million Democratic votes in Texas, highest number in history. North Carolina, more Democrats voted than Republicans, first time in history. So we're seeing energy. If we can gather the energy of our fellow citizens and turn that into an electorate that's electrified and is led. And that's why I believe, and I've had to learn to be a little cocky in this campaign. It's a bit of a
Hmm.
running joke because you understand, you hang out with military people enough to know that our mission as a servant, people look at Patton and they look at the trade and say, military people are egotistical. The truth is, most of us leaders defer to the mission. We
Hmm.
understand it's not me. I may be the commander of the moment. It may only last
Hmm.
a year or two, but it's the mission that matters. That's
Hmm.
why you'll see that a real leader says we a lot. A real leader says
Right,
the
right.
mission, right? They don't say me. So it's very been weird for me to go, up and say me, follow me. But there is that part, and I learned that as a young lieutenant. I saw somebody mentioned a butter bar earlier in the comments. When I was a young lieutenant, I had 3 platoons. I led my third platoon into Desert Storm. And I learned then there was a factor of leadership which says motivation, morale, trust me, build rapport with your followers and say, follow me. Let's
Right.
go. And we've seen it. God, you watch Band of Brothers in 2001 when Spears comes. Remember the assault after Bastogne,
Oh
and
yeah,
the commander. Remember the easy commander gets scared. So
yeah.
Winter spells in Spears, and there's that moment where Spears comes running out of the rain, the mortars, and it's a true story, by the way. And the truth is, everything I've read about that moment, the show didn't actually do it justice. He actually did more.
Wow. Yeah. Right.
But Spears kind of says, "What's going on here? Hey, sir, we're stuck. We got that. Great. Put all your fire till it's gone. You go left, you go right, follow me." And then he ran through fire. And that's what I think people need right now. We need leaders who are willing to step up and say, "Look, I will take the barbs and arrows. I will take the shots because I've been taking MAGA shots for 6 years.
Right.
They've written hit pieces on me. I've been
Right.
doxxed
Right.
5 times. I got doxxed again this week. Bring it.
Oh,
It's
and
been
Daily Stormer
done."
tried the neo Nazis tried to dox me, and ProPublica called, and I think the reporter was rather shocked at my giddy nature. I go, really? Wow. Okay, what you got?
You made it, baby. I
And
got
he
sued
went,
by Mike
"Are you
Flynn.
afraid?" I go, "Am I afraid? Oh no, no. By the way, I have your lawyer will be on tomorrow night. Mark Zaid will join us tomorrow.
Mark is
So
a. I can't say what I would do. I can't say what I would do for Mark Zaid. Public game. I run for Congress. I
Mark's
love Mark
awesome.
Zaid. Mark
Yeah,
is truly an American patriot and a hero. And it's become he defended me for Flynn and we won. And the
that's
day
it.
Flynn sued me, I was literally sitting in my rented house with my used car and I'm getting sued for $150 million. $150 over 3 tweets. But what Flynn
Yeah.
did, Flynn posted my address in that lawsuit, but not his. And that was
Hmm.
the goal. The goal was to scare me. The goal
Thank
was
you.
to make me cower. And look,
Right.
folks, I ain't scared. I ain't scared of you.
Amen.
I know how to
Amen.
use a gun. I'm a soldier. I was in the Army for 20 years. I'm the son of a Marine. I learned how to shoot my dad's Magnum, you know,
Something
357
about where we're
Magnum.
born from and we're raised from.
Right.
Just blew
In a
that from the
quarry,
womb
in a
up.
quarry in my district, Chris. There's a quarry in my district where I learned to
Right.
shoot a 357 Magnum at the ripe old age of 7 because my dad wanted me to learn it wasn't a goddamn toy. And so bring it. You guys don't scare me. And we need leaders who are going to step up and say, I ain't afraid of you. Our country needs change. Follow me. And so part of my campaign has been gathering that energy of people in the streets say, look, I'm going to give you a campaign you can be part of. We have over 450 volunteers already. I'm going to be a part. You can be part of something that's going to truly change our district. Because the really cool thing about this district, too, is we have research now showing that if we flip Missouri, too, at the congressional level, we will also flip 6 of the state house seats as well below us on the same ticket, on the same ballot. If we do that, we break the supermajority in Missouri, which means the Republicans have to deal with our asses. So we have the real power in this district, my congressional district, 750,000 people, 75 miles end to end, to change the state and the country. So I believe if I can harness that energy of the good people who care about our country, get them to come out, get them to believe again that we can win, because there's also a defeatism, and you know this. You've seen it in Ukraine. The surrender monkeys, I call them. I get it. They're burned out. They've supported multiple candidates in the past. This woman's won 13 years in a row. This seat has been Republican for 33 years. Our donors here are burned out. Our supporters are burned out. I get it. Believe me, I have a plan. I have been building this plan. I've built the people. We're going to build an army. We've got over 14,000 individual donors from across the country. I did that on purpose because we know we need help here in Missouri. Your viewers, my viewers, look, y'all kick in $25, $100, $1,000. I can beat this woman.
Actually, I'll say it on your behalf. Everyone who can donate to your campaign, to Fred's campaign,
thank you.
Please do so. So I can easily say it here. I don't work for corporate America, and I don't have a 501c3 thing over my head that says you can't say. I'm from Pacifica Radio. We couldn't do that at Pacifica Radio, but I can here because I'm the chief. I'm the head dictator in my office, and I want people to step up and show that. Just like I say about this programming, it is your programming. It is why you need to grab it back. And the way you grab it back is to participate directly in that campaign. And I've only run for office one time. It was at the radio station. I didn't run for the board. I put my name in on the list to be on the board elections. And someone says, you're running for the board. I go, no, I'm just putting my name in the hat because we created the board. But you're running. I said, if I was running, you would know. And then they created the managers council, which had more bite. Now I'm running. And they said, what do you mean? You'll see. And what I did different was I went to every volunteer in the station, every single person, because that was the side I was voting on, not the listeners. And I went to people who I'd had major headbutts with over all sorts of shit. I was known to be a bit of a headbutter. And I said, hey, I'm going to run for the volunteer seat. Yeah. People who we had disagreements over other things, but am I going to be able to speak for you? Bro, you showed up at every live stream I ever needed. You went out every time we had a board op failure. You showed up. There was never a time I didn't serve them, no matter what the problem was. And when the votes were being counted, seat number 2 only required 18, and I had 280 votes. Wow. I walked away with the rest of them. And it's that plan, like you said, like when I said, there's a reason why Gore lost and the reason why Obama won. The 50-state campaign strategy. You got to go everywhere. You got to talk to people you disagree with and say, what is it that you need to be happy again? What is it that you were so upset that you voted for Trump twice and now your economy is screwed? What do I need to hear from you? So let me ask you this as the final question for tonight, and I hope you'll come back. We can do this a lot.
Oh, I'd love to. I love your audience. I mean, what a positive audience. I had a show the Chris, I joined my campaign will kill me. I joined the show the other day, and they're wonderful people, but oh my God, their chat was brutal. So I appreciate you guys being so kind.
Absolutely.
Last question, hit me. I'm ready, man. Hit me.
Here's this question. It's like when I went to those people and I said, what is it that you need that isn't being answered by others like me? Or what do you think that you think I'm pre-decided against you? What do I need to hear from you that didn't get heard from my side before? What is it? So what do you hear from people that come to talk to you that were the polar opposite of the Democrats that say, if you will solve this or if you'll work on this, I'll be happier? What are some of those things?
Oh gosh, I mean, we've kind of touched on a few already. There's no question in
Okay,
my
fair enough.
mind that the idea of an affordability crisis, a cost of living crisis, is touching every single corner of every person right now. The
Right.
study came out in October showing that 67% of Americans right now are living paycheck to paycheck. I want you to chew in that number for a second. That's more than two-thirds of Americans. That means upper middle class. That means lower upper class. We want to call it.
Mhm.
Everyone's living paycheck to paycheck on the very cusp of failure. One
Mm,
cancer diagnosis, one lost job,
mhm.
means you've seen it. I live in a very nice neighborhood. I'm very fortunate. And
Yeah.
I've seen it, where the house goes into foreclosure because the dad lost his job or the mom got cancer. We are so many Americans right now hunger for somebody to acknowledge, just to acknowledge, hey,
Right.
I see it. And this isn't political. I get it. I get that
Right.
you're worried. I have a kid I know, a parents I know nearby. Their kid's going to Columbia. He's going to be Fred. He's coming home after Columbia because I don't think he can get a job. This doesn't matter what your income level. It doesn't matter your color, your background. We have a problem where we are failing to address the real challenges we face. They've been dismissed for too long by people in power because we have a disconnect. And that goes back to what people say second to me is, where's our Congress member? It's a joke to say absent and it's a joke to say photo op Ann who does a photo op. She got new things she's doing here, Chris. You would love this, especially being in Ukraine. What she'll do is she'll go into the district, she'll visit the district for a single day, and her campaign will set up multiple visits to businesses that are friendly to her. And she'll wear the
Mm.
same outfit, but a different jacket. She changes her jacket at each, or like a sweater or a jacket at each stop. And they parcel out those visits over 5 or 6 days, making it look like she's out and about in the district. And then a lot of us know she's wearing the same clothes. She's doing it all in one day. It's like one day, she does a safari into the district and leaves. And so, she disappeared for 2 weeks. Then we suddenly saw a picture of her visiting the sailors in Japan.
Right.
You know, it's like, okay, she's on vacation. So I hear again and again, and this goes for elected officials, it goes for labor leaders. I do
Right.
not have a member of Congress. I was at Iftar the other night. The imam told me that they've invited Miss Wagner to come visit their mosque twice at least. She's never even replied.
Mhm.
The labor leaders. We've invited her to come to see our training area, our training facility, to talk about our internship program, our apprenticeship program. Never heard back.
Mhm.
Elected leaders. I have a city here. I won't name it. I won't embarrass the leader, but essentially half this metropolitan area is in a floodplain. It's in a floodplain.
Right.
And I said to the mayor, and he's a Republican because city officials here are. I don't know if you remember, but city officials are nonpartisan in Missouri.
Oh, I didn't know
So,
that. Oh, yeah,
yeah, it's
that's
like
pretty
Georgia's
common
the
in
same
some
way.
areas. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Georgia's the same way. And so I don't ask partisan. I'm not asking any local elected officials to endorse me, but I ask them, I said, look, if you had the perfect member of Congress, what would that look like? It's like, I just need them to answer my calls and help me get some money. She doesn't believe in pork belly spending. So you've got projects, there should be federal dollars
Mhm.
like flood control, like Missouri hills are. People don't realize how hilly this region is.
Right,
It's the
right, right.
Ozark. It's the Saint Francois Mara. These are
Yeah,
limes. This is the oldest mountains in America. It's all limestone, sandstone.
yeah,
It
that's
takes
right.
federal dollars to to build a road in much of this district. It's going to take federal money, and we need that. And so I hear from these local officials. I just want somebody to pick up the phone and listen to my needs and then act on them. And so it's amazing to me that has nothing to do with partisanship, has nothing to do with location, has nothing to do with income level. And so for me, I think there's a desperation in a lot of America right now for leaders who will listen. Look, you could talk about Mamdani and his success. Oh, he's a socialist, he's evil, whatever. The reason he succeeded is he got out there and he talked to people and he
That's
heard
right.
from people. And then he had a plan. He didn't just listen. He didn't reflectively listen. He said, here's what I'm going to do. You can agree or
Yeah.
disagree with what his solutions were, but people were like, finally, a guy who's listening to me and not the donor
That's
clubs.
the number one thing certain citizens really want, and why Bernie, for instance, and I was Bernie's radio board op. So, the 1% of the 1%, Fred, let me tell you, the thing is, when I go to middle America, if I go to Missouri, people want to
Yeah.
be heard. And
Heard.
that's really the key. They want to be heard, and they want to see it. And the way they know they were heard is action.
Action. Exit.
So,
Do something for them.
uh,
You're right.
not a
So
final
it's not just
question, but
talk. All
give me
right,
your
go ahead.
thoughts on the assault on Brian McGinnis in the Congress, because that's my
Just
final thought.
disgusting. For the life of me, I cannot understand why a sitting United States senator felt it was his duty to step off the podium and grab a citizen and try to pull him out of there, and to say that he was assaulting people. He wasn't assaulting. He stood up. He yelled out. That's allowed. That's my right. And it's also the Capitol Police's job to have him exit. It was no one's
Right.
job to brutally assault him. And it certainly wasn't the job of a sitting United States senator to grab him and then to lie and say I was de-escalating. Bro, we can see the video. You ran up and grabbed him by the legs and yanked him till he broke his hand, possibly. So again, at what point do we stop making excuses for this behavior and expect more from our leaders? Hey, look, I'm a tough guy. I went to Rangers. I'm an Army Ranger. Okay. I'm a tough guy. I don't walk around with my chest puffed up, talk about what a badass I am, because you know why?
That's
I
not
know
what
I
tough guys
am.
really do. Real tough guys
I
don't
know
do that.
exactly. I don't have to prove shit to anybody, bro. When'd you get your people? I love they come at me. Oh, you're a cuck. Hey, when'd you get your Ranger tab? I was winner in '93. Don't screw you. I don't have to prove shit to you. I've done my duty. I've learned.
That's
I know
it.
what I'm doing. And so to see Sheehy, the ex-Navy SEAL, who by the way was left to disgrace, lied about a combat injury when he actually shot himself. To see Sheehy act like he's some badass in a suit is completely inappropriate. Can we just have leaders that respect the office and respect the citizens they're supposed to represent? And that's the final thing I'll say is I'm so just sick of the smears of the people they're supposed to be representing, and they don't. And so I just want to go there and start talking to people who, and be a person there that respects all 750,000 people in my district, respects the people who voted for me. Go there as what I call myself a Missouri Democrat. I'm not running for the National Democrats. I'm running for this district and to listen and make a difference. So thanks for the
That's why
opportunity to
the
talk.
invite was that's why the invite was thrown your way. The invite
I
will be
appreciate you,
open every
brother.
time you got time, and tell that campaign
Thanks, man.
behind you. Keep working, and we appreciate you. See you soon.
I appreciate. Thanks to all your fans. And look, if you can, I'll be remiss if I don't tell you guys. I would love your support. I know times are tight. I was just talking about how everybody's broke right now, but $10, $25 at wellmanformo.com. I would really appreciate it. We're in the hunt here right now. We're on path to be her biggest challenge she's ever faced. I'd like to keep that going. So
Go steal
I
that
appreciate
district.
it. Thanks, bro.
Appreciate you, man. See you soon.
Cheers. See you soon.
And I'm gonna stay here for a few minutes and talk to the crowd about this. And Fred will be all this video will be up on Substack for everyone to check out. So thanks to Fred for joining us. And as I do this final part, I will tell you that tomorrow night we will have Mark Zaid on. And then Saturday, I've rescheduled the visit with Phil Air from tonight until Saturday because he's traveling. And I want to have more time with him. And that's exactly what we have to get done is we have to keep listening to these experienced voices that have good wisdom for you, who've served the country and done the part that they need to do to really invest their lives into the country. And that is all about what you're about in my estimation. I've seen all of you showing up. I'm gonna get the chat back up here so I can see because I just accidentally closed out the wrong tab. Um, and if you have some final comments here as I say goodnight, because I'm going to just stay on till the top of the hour, so 5 more minutes. Put them in the chat space here if you got. I'm going to reboot that. No, there we go. And I see Patty. Thank you for joining us. And also you can subscribe to my account. I just got through getting tired of the other platforms. I'm really sick of Apartheid Clyde and the way in which that platform doesn't do anything. But this platform has been awesome. We have seen not just Fred, we have a lot of people here that have had a better connection with their audience. I'm going to have next week Daniel Hodges from Capitol Police Officer groups that you've seen on in Testimony Plus Defending the Capitol. It should be a week from tonight if we do everything right. So Daniel Hodges will be here. I will have two Crimean journalists that are planning on. I'm sorry, one who is a Crimean journalist, another who is an activist to join us to talk about those things here. But I'm gonna, if I have to do two programs each night so that we have this up, I'm gonna keep doing it. I come from Pacifica Radio. Back in, I should say more particular. I come from KPFT Houston, which is a community-driven radio station, and I worked as an executive producer over my own show, Music Beyond Borders. And then I was also a producer at Noticiero Spanish Language News, specials, and did it in volunteer hours. And, a MAGA guy tried to insult me yesterday was saying, oh, you're only doing this because you don't have a paycheck. I'm an entrepreneur for 27 years. Every one of my clients is my paycheck. I diversified it and I became the one who gets the paycheck by client service, not by any of the other garbage. I know what it means to struggle. I know what it means to get by with very little resources. And I know that all of you who are going through that really, really are trying to have a better America. And if you're not in America, you're looking for a better world. And this platform gives us a chance to communicate with each other. Now, shortly, in the next few days, I already have it wired, but I need to test it. I am wiring in Discord server and perhaps other tools into the system so that we can have you call in and have some exchange back and forth. Maybe like on the weekends, we can have these interviews during the week. If one of our guests and friends wants, I don't even like to say guests because it makes it sound like you're in my home and I'm not also in Fred's home. This platform, actually, when we're done, everything we just filmed goes right on Fred's platform if he wants to use it. It's a co-creation, and it's a co-creation when you're here as well. So help us get better. I appreciate your subscription as well, just like we talked about the campaign for Fred's office. Go do that as a priority. I can say your support on what I'm doing is invaluable. I have made the commitment to keep doing this. I basically wake up and I write and I write and I plan and I write, and I'm going to keep doing it here because I find it an invaluable part of what we need to do to restore our democracies, not just in America, but abroad. The whole reason why I brought up the corruption model that I mentioned earlier is that if you look at the Transparency Corruption Index organization, what they're really concerned about is that the more corruption goes up, which is what Russia pushes, is that autocracies go up and democracies go down. They buy their way through the sphere that has no interest in you unless you're a commodity. They want to use you as a commodity, want to use your anger, your resentment against their enemies, and that includes not just the MAGA side of it. There are other corporate interests that just love to weaponize your outrage, love to weaponize it to the point where you're useless. And one of my friends who's in here, I got used to this phrase, don't be zombie food. What is zombie food? That's the van that I throw up in front of everyone else to save everyone else. How do you prevent to be zombie food? Be active. Find some part of what you do. If you're disabled, do it from home. I have a lot of people who have inspired my entire life by being activist oriented, and I live in that realm. Let's see, you could use you and then throw you out the windows. Right, exactly. Use you and throw you out the windows. Very Russian style. You know, Russia has a gravity issue. Um, but the corruption that happens is entirely so that the way in which the government should work is removed from your power. And I'll close it with this. Years ago, I had a friend that was just a musician. All I knew him in Houston was a bass player who just was in different ensembles or at the jams, and I never knew him to be political. And then all of a sudden, he became very political, but not in the sense of like active political behavior or trying to make changes. It was he was listening to AM radio every day and just getting this resentment building up, and he kept saying like us against the government, us against the government. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. What's the Constitution say? Oh, I don't know. No, no. And he says, well, the First Amendment. I go, no, that's the amendment. I'm talking about the Constitution, the first part of that process. Well, I don't know. It's kind of, I mean, I'd have to pull it out. And we didn't have the internet easily sitting on our phones back then, right? And I said, I'm going to give it real simple. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Remember that part? Oh yeah, the preamble. That before we do anything, we, the people, okay? Not they, the corporations, not they, the tech bros, not they, the oligarchs. We, the people. And they are afraid of us. They are petrified of us. Now, we can make it to where they're not by being mollified, by being satiated. If our bellies are full, we go home. Or we can say, you know what? Like I find on this platform, we're hungry for information. We're hungry for change. We're hungry for, especially change. We're hungry for results instead of like one of the things I like what Fred said is I've had people who go out and they try to get your vote and they promise you a change and then nothing happens. We are the ones who have to make that happen, which is why my last question to him I felt was the most important one. What do we have to have where you guys are galvanized to get up, take appropriate action to make change in your neighborhood, your district, your state, and your nation? If not, it's not your nation anymore. It's a nation that belongs to the oligarchs, a nation that belongs to the Elon Musks and the folks that have every desire to just commoditize your life, your priorities, and your outcome. And if you don't like that, you're the one that can change it. And if you feel like by yourself you're nothing, trust me, I totally understand. If I was sitting here by myself with nothing, without 155 people talking or sharing this talk with me, I would be a lunatic. And I'm a little bit of a lunatic anyway, but I'm a lunatic in your favor. So take care of yourself. We will see you tomorrow night. Now we're starting a little early because Fred had a busy schedule. But tomorrow night we will start at 4 p.m. East Coast time with Mark Zaid. Correction, I'm sorry. If you like reports about Ukraine, my buddy Sean Penn and I will start at 2 o'clock East Coast time or 9 o'clock here. We do that every week. And we will definitely show up for our weekly what the fuck's going on here mode. That'll go for well over an hour. We always say an hour, and it's always more than an hour. And then, but seriously, at 4 o'clock tomorrow on this topic, go check out the man who stood up for not just Fred but many others, Mark Zaid, who actually this week had again. And I just finished the article about him to post. The DOJ was going to stop pursuing actions against these law firms, and there was a little bit of victory. Yay! I finished the article. Okay, no, we're not. Okay, hold on, Mark. Yeah, I had to change the article again. So come out and find out how that's going. And I would really appreciate your support by subscribing to this account. We were 18 followers at the beginning of December when I decided I really want to use this platform more. And we're at 600 and something, almost closing in on 700. I'd like to get to 1,000 by the end of March, and I think we can do it. So far, we've had Brian Karem, we have had Craig Unger, we have had Frank Figluzzi, we've had John Fugelsang. We've had journalists like Chloe Kraft, my friends here in Ukraine, like Dennis Gluzhko. Of course, Fred tonight. We had Juliet last night. I always want to call her Decoding Fox News last night. And I have a whole bunch more that are coming that you don't know about. So if you want to know about it, because I got a killer fucking Rolodex that you would love to see. You will see because I'm going to bring it right here. Just subscribe to the account, check out the articles. A lot of the topics we talked about tonight, I actually have been writing about. So I've written about what is the difference between the war against Iraq and the war against Iran, right there on the timeline. Why did Trump say, well, we don't have the weapons at this level? I already wrote about it because I actually wrote an article that I worked over 2 years on the research on called the $58 billion they don't want to talk about. The $58 billion that went right back into America that they voted against over and over again, like the Lima factory under Jim Jordan, Lance Gooden, who is my bugaboo in Mesquite, Texas, who voted against, empowering the artillery shell factory that's in his district, and they keep doing this. What the fuck happened to the national security related Republicans? There's a reason why my website is called NatSec Media, National Security Media. It's not called UkraineIsCoolNews.com. That's a great website name, UkraineIsCoolNews.com. But NatSec Media, why? Because I worked as a counterterrorist civilian, tracking the Proud Boys, tracking the Oath Keepers, tracking the 3%ers, tracking the cyber operations of Russia against the United States, tracking the Iranians' cyber operations against the United States, which we will talk about this weekend, and a lot of that stuff. And I didn't hang up my hat just because I wound up in Ukraine. I now have to do the same work times two in two countries, and I'm going to keep doing it. So, as we always say here, for those who don't know, God bless America, Slava Ukraini, Heroim Slava и пиздец Российской Федерации. And for those who don't speak Ukrainian, that means fuck the Russian Federation. Fuck Trump. Пиздец Trump. See you soon.